Ajay Kumar Muchakurthi, and we are dealing with the course on the current affairs for the month of March 2019. Okay, so in the end we'll be dealing with MCQs. So if you if everyone can see as well as hear me, so please let me know so that we'll be starting our class. Yes. So for the past few days, we were actually dealing with this particular topic with respect to the current affairs for the month of March 2019. And in the end, we are actually dealing with the MCQs for the topics that we have actually learning in this particular course. Okay. So now we have actually taken almost 8 sessions, but the last 2 sessions, the session number 9 and session number 10 are supposed to happen just yesterday and day before yesterday. So because of some reasons, I couldn't able to take that particular session. My sincere apologies for that. Okay, so yeah, we'll be starting with this particular session number 9 today. It has to be 12th of May 2019. Yeah, so good evening Aishwarya. So if you can see as well as hear me, just let me know. We'll be starting a class now. Yeah, hello computer camp, good evening. So shall we start now? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Hello, Johnny, Tyagi. Yes. So we'll be starting now. So I think everyone can remember this particular thing. So it is about the Belt and Road Initiative of China. So it's about the Belt and Road Initiative of China that we are going to talk about. Especially there is some reason why actually, yes. So why actually we are supposed to talk about this. Okay, so if you can see this particular picture, it clearly showcases that how China wants to connect the complete world, actually through the maritime route as well as through the land route. Yes, so these are the various methods how actually China is looking to this connectivity of the world. But is the motive of China? What is the motive of China is still a questionable thing. So as part of this, what is China saying? China says that they are focusing on the infrastructure especially, right? So that's what China has been saying. So this Belt and Road Initiative is also called as One Belt One Road Initiative, as we all know. So this is one such kind of initiative where the China will showcase to the world what is the might of the China. So what sort of might are we talking about? So economically how strong India is, like China is, industrially how strong this China is. So they want to clearly showcase, and now we all know that China is actually looking towards becoming one of the world power like any other country like United States of America as well as Russia. Right? So this particular initiative can be considered as one such kind of initiative where China will become one among this kind of great powers. That is what the main objective is this. So it was initially launched in Kazakhstan in 2013. Yes. So initially it will be launched in Kazakhstan in 2013. And now, so infrastructure means setting up some kind of industries or development of that particular countries through different kind of projects, like through the industries, or might be through with respect to construction like port infrastructure, airports, such kind of things. If you have been through the Sri Lanka story, so you might be hearing about Hambantota port. So Hambantota port actually where Sri Lanka has taken lot of loans through China for the development of this, but ultimately they have to leave this particular Hambantota port to China because of some debt, especially that Sri Lanka has fallen. So through this particular thing, they actually want to highlight what exactly is their might. So now those countries whichever is partnering with this particular board and this Belt and Road Initiative, they'll be getting lot of investments in the areas like construction, transport, aviation, telecommunications, energy sector, such kind of initiatives, different kind of initiatives they'll be getting from this particular concept. Now, but China says that China has always been stating that this particular cooperation that they're especially focusing here is nothing to do with any kind of military thing or nothing to do with any kind of geopolitical thing, but they say that this is completely an economic cooperation. So as part of this, they have been taking up different kind of projects in many countries. And now, so one of the most important project of all the Belt and Road Initiative is with respect to CPEC, that is China Pakistan Economic Corridor. So as we all know, India has always been raising some kind of objections with respect to this particular program, this particular project. because it actually hurts the sentiments of India, because it passes through the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, which is actually the territory of India. So why this China-Pakistan economic corridor is so important? If you can actually look into this particular picture once again, so you can see here, so the CPEC passes through this particular way like this. So now what is going to happen here? So now through this particular thing, actually, like China can reach out to the Gwadar port very easily. So rather than, like, till now China, for example, for the oil imports, what they used to do is, like, they have to pass through this particular area. So they have to pass through this particular area, like they have to pass through this, and they have to move all this way, and here they will be actually receiving the oil. But now if they can actually get this particular CPC done, so they can actually do this thing, like, in such short span of time. So that is a major initiative that China has always been looking towards, the China-Pakistan economic corridor in particular. That is a major reason here. Okay, now, so there are many countries, like, this is the Gwadar port, which I was already telling. So it is the one which is connecting the Arabian Sea and the Gulf of Oman, which is actually going to be a greatest thing for China with respect to the oil transport in particular. Now, so India, as I always stated, that India is also raising some kind of concern with respect to the national sovereignty. And as it passes through this particular area of Pakistan occupied Kashmir, India has always been raising some kind of issues. Now, there are certain countries which are supporting this particular projects. Like according to China, since its launch in 2013 in Kazakhstan, to till date, about 150 countries have signed the agreements for this particular project. And there are some countries like India, US, Japan, which are actually, like, opposing this particular thing. Why is it so? So they were actually stating that whatever the investment that you're taking from this particular China, initially you may feel it better, but as the time pass on, the developing nations, like, the poor nations, the developing nations, they cannot pay them well. So ultimately they may fall in the debt trap, and the complete development of this, whatever they have taken, that would be gone to China. So they believe that, so the country like India, US, Japan has always been opposing this particular thing on different kind of reasons also. Right? So why are we talking about this? Because recently one of this particular, generally one of the G7 countries. So what are the G7 countries? These are the countries which are considered as the advanced economies according to the International Monetary Fund. Okay, so now this includes the countries of Canada, USA, UK, France, Germany, Japan and Italy. Of all these 7 countries, so for the first time one country has actually went to China for this Belt and Road Initiative. Okay, Bhupendra, I'll try to be slow. Okay, so now one country in this particular 7 countries actually went to China, especially to focus on, getting some kind of investment in that particular country. And what is that? That is the country of Italy. So we'll talk about it also. Now, of all these 7 countries, if you say, the 58% of the global wealth is present only in these particular countries in the world. And Italy, as I stated that, Italy has recently stated that they will be joining the Belt and Road Initiative. So recently the Chinese president has actually visited Italy, and there they have actually declared it. Now, so that's very clear. Now when the G7 group, which is always together till now, and one among them actually joined the enemy. So now how will this particular countries fare? Yes, that obviously that's going to be a question mark for these countries. So yes, particularly US is the one which is actually, has caused some greater concern, because such a advanced economy like Italy is actually going and joining the Belt and Road Initiative. So both the countries, that is Italy and China, has signed about 29 MOUs, which would be a cost of about 5 to 7 billion euros. 5 to 7 billion euros. Now, critics have been stating that Belt and Road Initiative is not just economical. It's not just an economical or infrastructure investment, but it is actually a part of the influence of China, that is the political as well as the military influence. Now they can actually show this influence, right? For example, I'm giving some thousands of crores to you. I can try to influence your government. Yes or no? There's a possibility that I can influence your government. So the critics have been stating that China is making use of this kind of things to actually influence the political and military influence on this particular countries, which are actually the developing countries. So that may actually lead to, they may also spread those kind of technologies which may actually even capable of spying also. So this is completely about the Belt and Road Initiative and the recent joining of this particular Italy. So is that clear? So if that is fine, we'll move on to the next topic. Yes. Now, so now there are certain countries like, for example, how many of you heard about something called JICA? That is, Japan International Cooperation Agency. How many of you heard about this? Japan International Cooperation Agency. Yes. How many of you heard about this JICA? This is very important. Now, why is that so? I'll talk about it also. Now, yes. So this Japan International Cooperation Agency is such a kind of one. It's an official agency of the Japanese government. So where they're actually going to help the different kind of countries, like external investments, external support to other countries, that will be done through the official source of funding will be done through the JICA. Now, do we have such a kind of a mechanism in India? Okay, so this Japan International Cooperation Agency is such kind of thing. For example, if the Japanese government is helping any country with respect to the finances and all, so with respect to the development of any project and all, so that would be the Japan International Cooperation Agency which would be taking a part in that, and that is the one which will be helping them. Okay, so that is JICA. Now similarly, do we have any such kind of initiative from Indian side which is going to help the other countries? Yes, there is something called Development Administrative Partnership. There's something called Development Administration Partnership. Hello Pavinda, you're very late today. Yes. So what is this Development Administration Partnership? So now this was created in the year 2012, especially by the Ministry of External Affairs. So what is the major objective of this? So similar to that of JICA, this is also one such kind of initiative where the Indian aid projects, whatever the thing, for example, if India is going to launch certain kind of projects in Africa, certain kind of projects in Nepal, Bhutan, in such kind of countries, now it needs some kind of aid. It is the aid that is going from India, right? So now this is the one which would handle the Development Administration Partnership is the one which will handle this kind of projects. What is the concept? What is the major agenda for this kind of a partnership? They'll try to understand the concept. They will launch this and they will see how far this is being executed, and then by when we can actually expect its completion. So these are the major things that will be looked after by the Development Administration Partnership. So it completely based on what are the partner countries that we are actually doing it, and what are the ministry that is involved in. So based on those particular two countries, that would be completely looked into. So as part of this, they'll provide assistance to different kind of things like, so they'll be providing the grants, they'll be providing lines of credit. They also focus on capacity building of the people also. So why are we talking about this? Because recently, India has extended a financial grant of 35.5 million Nepali rupees for the construction of an educational campus in Nepal under this particular thing. So generally, this is actually not our concern, but our concern is completely to know about something called as a Development Administration Partnership. Okay, so that is about the Development Administration Partnership. It's the basic thing that we must know. So that is the main reason why we are dealing with this topic. Now, so if you have any doubts, you can tell me anytime. Now, we'll move further. So Indian Forest Act 2019. So this Indian Forest Act 2019, it's actually a proposed one. It's a proposed one. It's yet to be enacted. But yes, there's something actually we have to talk about this. So that's why it is important. So Indian Forest Act 2019, what exactly is it talking about? So the Indian Forest Act 2019 is actually a proposed one, as I was stating about it. So we know whenever we have some kind of issues in the forest areas, the issues will be mostly between the forest personnel, that is the forest officers, and the tribals, isn't it? This is a general case that we actually often hear about. Now, so what exactly is this Indian Forest Act 2019 is about? Yes. So now, so this Indian Forest Act 2019, what is the major objective is this? We have to actually change the norms according to this particular area. For example, we have Indian Forest Act of 1927. So as part of this, like, the problems that are being faced by the people, especially like, when the forest officers are there to protect in the forest and the forest resources. Now, earlier in the 1927, we don't have such a technology that we have now, isn't it? Yes. Do we have such a kind of a technology that is present now in the year 1927? Definitely not. Yes, Harsh. Yes. Yeah. So now in this particular area, what is going to happen now? So as part of this, so this is the one which is actually going to amend that particular act so that we can actually deal with those kind of issues also. What are the problems that are being faced by the people even now in the particular area? So they'll be exclusively focusing on that. So as part of this, like, any kind of a forest officer, whoever is actually there, So they will be given a kind of a power to use the arms now. So they'll be given a power to use the arms to prevent any kind of forest offense. Any forest officer who is not below the rank of a ranger, so he would have a power to hold an inquiry into the offences that are especially done by the forest offences especially, and they can also actually search or issue a warrant also. So they can actually issue a search warrant also under the CRPC 1973. So yeah, hello Nidhi. So that's what they can do. Now, so I'm telling you about different kind of forest officer. First one is that forest officer will be given a right to use of arms to prevent a forest offense. Now, the next one is that any forest officer who is not below the rank of a ranger, they will have a power to inquiry. At the same time, they also have a power to actually search or we can also issue a kind of a search warrant under the CRPC 1973. Now, apart from that, any forest officer who is not below the rank of forester, they can actually enter and inspect any land within his jurisdiction at any time, irrespective of any time they can actually do that. Now, coming to the village forest now. Coming to the village forest, what are they going to say? So village forest is such kind of area. It's like village forest is such kind of area. Hello Kishlai. So what is it? It is a forest land or a wasteland which is completely the property of a government. And now, yes, it is not yet enforced. So which is the property of a government, but it is jointly managed by the community as well as a government through the Joint Forest Management Committee or a Gram Sabha. Now, what it says, it proposes they will be imposing something called as forest development cess of 10%. Up to 10% of forest development cess will be imposed on whatever the mining products that are coming from this particular forest area or water that is coming from this forest area for any kind of industries. Okay, 10% of a cess will be imposed, and this cess will be deposited in a special fund. Okay, I'll try to be slow. If I'm so fast, you can let me know. Yeah, I'll try to be slow. Okay, I'm so sorry. Bhupendra, are you still facing that? Am I going too fast even now? Yeah. So now this particular amount, whatever is present, the 10% of fund, so that has to be deposited in a special fund, and that would be exclusively used for the restoration of a forest as well as for the protection of a forest also. So this is yet to be passed. So that is what the thing is. Now, so any kind of a loss that are actually sometime at the time of implementation, we may face certain kind of a problems with respect to the loss. Right? So now any loss that leads to conflict during implementation as per the Forest Rights Act of 2006, that would be also looked after by them, and they'll be actually changing it also. Now the ultimate objective is this: whoever the personnel is involved in the forest area, who are actually yes, that's right, whatever the resources that they are taking, so that amount, so how much of the resources they are getting, so on that value of that particular amount, so on that value that they are getting from on them, 10% of a cess will be imposed. Yes, that's right, the mining company, whatever is present, that would be imposed. So it's the companies which are supposed to pay this, it's not the users. Okay, ultimately, yes, exactly, that's right, we can also consider as a Campa funds, that's right, we can consider as a Campa funds, yeah. But Campa fund, when it comes to this would be deal with different kind of aspects, but here we are exclusively focusing on the resources that you are using from the forest area. So ultimately what is going to happen here, this is going to create such kind of a thing, where the forest bureaucracy who are involved, the powers will be strengthened, and they will be actually enforcing the laws which are actually protecting the forest in particular. Okay, now so we'll move on to the World TB Day. So maybe we need not discuss about the World TB Day. Now we may not discuss about the World TB Day, but yes, we have to discuss something about the initiatives that have been taken up by the government of India, especially for dealing with the tuberculosis. Now, we'll move on. So now World TB Day is observed on 24th of March every year. So now, as we all know, the TB is such a kind of a disease which is actually causing a lot of trouble with respect to the patients who are suffering with this particular bacteria called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So it is a contagious disease, it can be spread to one person to other person, as we all know. This is what they generally see. Now this World TB Day is observed generally so that the people will know what exactly it is about. So what is the impact of this particular tuberculosis on a person? They will be trying to understand that. what are the economic consequences. For example, if a person is suffering with the TB and if you are looking at the treatment, that would actually cost lakhs of rupees. So ultimately whatever this TB is present, that has to be ended. That is a major objective of this. Okay, so every day about 4,500 people are losing their lives across the world to that tuberculosis, and 30,000 people are falling ill, especially because of this particular disease. Actually, we know that it can be prevented and it can be cured, but unfortunately the costs that are incurred are too high across the world. Now, so there are some global efforts that have also been done by different kind of countries, especially to actually save about an estimated of about 54 million lives since the year 2000. And this has actually shown that there has been a reduced mortality rate because of TB, which has actually come down to 42%. Now, so the theme is it's time. It's high time actually. The theme is it's time. So it's not about to discuss about the World TB Day, but our concern, as I'm telling you once again, but our concern is completely to know about the India's efforts for this particular TB. That is our concern. We have to focus. Okay. So now what exactly this world has actually looked after this. So it stated that we have to act on this particular issue of the TB a lot. So what exactly they say? So now the global leaders have to look into such kind of things where the access to prevention and treatment have to be present everywhere. So accountability has to be there about the treatment, how that is going on. Yeah, I think that's not possible, Bhupendra. Like the maybe from the next class I can actually increase the font. From next class I'll increase the font. Okay. So for this particular class I request you to adjust for today's class, but from next class I'll try to increase the font. So if you are using on the system, it would be easy. But if you are using on a mobile, so I suggest you to look into this landscape mode at least, so that it will be easy for you to look into that also. But from next class I'll try to increase the font of this. Okay. Now, so now at the same time, now when you talk about this kind of initiatives of the TB and all, so we have to ensure that the proper needs of the people are being met. Now, how much funding is coming to this particular people, especially to treat the TB, is also one of the most important reasons. And we know one of the major issues is that, like any person who is suffering with the TB, for example, if a person who is coming, who is suffering with the TB, come beside you and keep talking to you, so will you stay there for a longer time? Yes, in general, what is going to happen in India is that people will not stay there, but people will go away. So that's actually a social stigma, and the people are discriminated like anything. So it promotes such a kind of a thing that people who are suffering with the TB shall also be treated on par with that of the other. But yes, that's a contagious disease, so people definitely have some kind of a concerns. Now India has a commitment, as Parvinda has rightly pointed out earlier, that we have to eliminate TB from India by 2025. So what are the initiatives that Indian government has taken to look into this? So now Indian government has been focusing on, whatever the care that we are doing to the patients who are suffering with the TB, that shall not be done like in any other way, but they say that it must be the patient centric. So how each patient is behaving, so based on that particular patient we have to give them the cure. And now the sympathy also have to be there. Sometimes people who are suffering the TB are completely eliminated or completely outlined by the society, so we have to show them such a kind of humanity and sympathetic well-being also have to be there. Yes. Now, so India is now actually very close about what? So we are actually able to identify how many people are suffering with the TB. So how many people are suffering with the TB in the country, where we are actually notified in the year 2018 that about 21.5 lakh TB, 21.5 lakh new TB patients were actually notified in the year 2018 alone. So why do we have to notify them? Is there any specific reason? Yes, there is some specific reason. Yeah. So there's a specific reason for that. So the reason is this: the universal health coverage has to be taken up in such a way that this people must have, the treatment for the TB is actually such a kind of thing. It involves lakhs of rupees, as I have already stated. Now we just have to focus on such kind of a thing, where this health opportunities, whatever that are present, that must be at available cost, that must be at at very reasonable prices, and people must actually have access to them. So accordingly, the policies also have to be changed. Now, universal drug susceptibility testing. So where, like, how the different kind of patients are actually, responding to the different kind of treatments, and we cannot stop there. So we actually have to focus on the research of this kind of things also. So this says that the universal drug susceptibility testing has actually been rolled out by the government, where they're completely focusing on how well the patients are receiving, how well the patients are responding to different kind of treatment that is being taken up for the TB. Now, private sector has also been awarded some greater kind of priority too. Apart from that, government also started something called as Nikshay Poshan Yojana. So Nikshay Poshan Yojana, what is going to happen now? It talks about Poshan. Poshan means the nutrition. So what are they going to do is, so with this particular thing, so government will be giving directly the amount into the bank accounts of this particular people. This was started since April 2018. So where they have actually deposited about 240 crores. And why is that so? Because this patients, about 15 lakh TB patients will be actually getting the nutrition support with the food. That is the major objective of this. Apart from that, a call center has been created for any kind of information. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. It's Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Bhupendra. Now, so any kind of issues that are being faced by the people, having some kind of linkage with the people. So ultimately, what they have decided is that about 15 lakh patients have been initiated in this fixed dose combination, which is one of the most important thing for treatment of this TB. Okay, so TB forums were brought up at different kind of levels so that the social stigma that is present with respect to this TB people can be actually wiped out. And awareness has to be created to the people. Okay, now what is the result of this kind of efforts? So now, there has been actually the treatment success rate has increased from 25% to 83% in just 2017-18. And the TB prevalence rate came down from 29% to 4% in India. That is the major objective, and this is what the successful thing that India has done with respect to the TB. Hope that's clear. Now, so it's Uma Shankar, that's actually fixed drug combination. So what exactly is that? So they'll be having some certain kind of drugs which are being used by this particular people, which are actually must to be used by the people who are suffering with the TB. So now this particular drugs will be considered as a fixed dose combinations or fixed drug combinations. Okay, so how much of dose, how much of this have to be used? So how much of dosage has to be used? So that will be fixed for every patient who is suffering with the TB. So that is the major objective of this. I have mentioned about this, I think. Yeah, you can see here fixed dose combination, I mentioned it. Now, we'll move on to the next topic about something called World Food Program. Now, yes. Yeah, there will be actually 13 MCQs, Nidhi, in the end. In the end, we'll be having 13 MCQs. So now, about the World Food Program. So World Food Program was established in the year 1961 by the Food and Agriculture Organization and United Nations General Assembly. So what is the major reason why they have actually created it? So after the World War II has happened, different countries have been suffering a lot. With respect to the food, especially the children. So this is such kind of organization. So yeah, good evening, Bhaskar. So this is such kind of organization. When it was created, the major objective is this: it is supposed to save the lives of about thousands and lakhs of millions of people, especially. So how are they going to do it? So they are going to supply the food for this particular people. Now, if you look into this particular area, on any day, if you see this World Food Program, the World Food Program will have such a kind of thing: about 5,000 trucks, 20 ships and 92 planes will be always on the move. They will be always on the move, which means that this much of food is being supplied to different kind of people who are in the most of the need of this. Yes, so now this would actually help them in eradicating the hunger as well as malnutrition. So what are the issues related to that? For example, nutrition deficiency, mortality rate, maternal rate, all these kind of things. Now, what are the objectives of this particular thing? The objectives of this World Food Program are that they are supposed to save the lives and the protection of the livelihood of the people in case of emergencies. So food security and nutrition has to be there in such a way that those areas, for example, where law and order issues have happened, happening. So in such kind of areas, these people need some kind of a support, right? So now they will show them some kind of a food security. They will have proper nutrition security in such kind of areas also. That is what, yeah. So that is what is going to happen here. Now through this, they are going to reduce the risk, and people will be able to meet their own food needs. Undernutrition will be reduced, and the ultimate thing is this: they want to see there has to be zero hunger by 2030. That is a major objective of this World Food Program. Right. So why are we talking about this? Recently, Japan has donated about $69 million to the World Food Program, where they want to state it. They made it very clear that they have made it very clear that they have to provide about 28 countries in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia in particular. Yemen and Iraq has to receive more of this particular food from the Japanese side. So that is the contribution that was made by Japan in particular. Yes. Now we have no poverty, no hunger, right? So yes, that's right, Pavinder. Now, so smart garbage bins, yeah. So smart garbage bins were actually launched by SAIL. Can anyone tell me what is SAIL? SAIL, full form of SAIL. So, for example, Abhirami, the thing is, emergency situations would be such kind of thing. For example, yeah. So, for example, such kind of thing is that, for example, like, now we are in this particular country like India, right? But now, when you talk about such kind of country like Iraq or such kind of country like Syria, we don't know when is the emergency for that particular thing. So, obviously, those countries which actually have emergencies, they are going to help them. That's right, Meera. Good to see you. After many days, I would say. Yes. So, Steel Authority of India Limited actually have developed something called smart garbage bins. Generally, like, when you're moving on the roads, you'll find sometimes, like, garbage bins will be present on the side of roads, right? But now they are overflowing, right? Like, what happens is that, like, even if they are present, so they'll be overflowing, right? People will be completely filled up, and the people start throwing it on the roads also. So, now the smart garbage bins, which were developed by the SAIL, so they were made up of the stainless steel, and now this will not be on the roads or some kind of things, but actually they will create some kind of a pits. So this, RCC pits will be created under this particular thing, and in that particular pits this will be placed. So what's happened now? Till now that is on the surface of this particular thing. So now if it is overflowing, that used to fall on the ground. But now if that is in the pit, what happens? Whatever they can fill, only they can fill till that. Now, what is the objective? Why I'm saying it's a smart garbage? So, thing is, when this garbage is getting filled up, this would actually send some kind of a signal to the garbage collection vehicle, so that this is the amount of the garbage that it has. So, what happens now? These people can actually go to that particular area where that is going to be filled up and actually clean that. So, the human intervention will be very, very less. Like if that is completely filled up, that would actually cause some kind of issue. But now this is actually leading to some better cleaning and all, so human intervention will be very less. Now the other thing is this: separate bins will be placed for recyclable as well as non-recyclable waste, so that people can also use that thing. So now there will be some specific certain a sanitation crew will also be there, like where any kind of a dump that is collected into the garbage, like if that is placed that will be placed on the ground, and they will be actually making use of this. That's right. So this is such a kind of initiative. I would say that's a really a good one that was made by the Steel Authority of India Limited. Yes. So now, yeah, but now we'll be having a pit, right? So now we'll be putting in that only pit. So now I just want to ask you, if I ask you about the temperature, so about the temperature, yes, about the temperature, where do you find much temperature? Urban areas or rural areas? And why is it so NTNet? Now, so recently a study has been conducted by the team of IIT Gandhinagar, so where they actually focused on the temperatures in the urban areas and non-urban areas during the heat waves in particular. So during the heat waves in particular, they actually wanted to understand how was this particular aspect. Now, so what they have actually given is this. The report is stated very clearly. It states that urban areas are more cooler than that of the non-urban areas. So I'm saying in terms of heat waves, okay, in terms of heat waves at that sort of situation, so urban areas are more cooler than that of non-urban areas. That has actually lead to, generally this kind of things is leading to increase of about 1.94 degrees Celsius because of the heat waves. Now okay, so we'll come to that, we'll understand where exactly is going to happen. Okay, now so if you see this, yeah, one second, yeah, so now I'll talk about it. Yes, now so what exactly they are going to say during the night times. During the night times, they say that urban areas are actually hotter when you compare. Yes, we'll come to that also, Abhirami, don't worry. So now, during the night times, the urban areas are found to be more hotter because of the surrounding, like, you know, when you compare them with the surrounding non-urban areas. Why is that so? Now, in the urban areas, what is going to happen is this. The temperature increase is less because there is a high tree cover. How can you say that there is a high tree cover in the urban areas when you compare with this? Yes, I'll talk about it. Now, so the tree cover will be there, the tree cover and also the water bodies. That is the reason they have stated. And why do you say? Because, for example, if you are actually, like, you know, if you are actually planting the trees and all in the urban areas, they will not be cut so easily. Like, they'll be developing parks, they'll be developing different kind of things. But if you talk about the non-urban areas, mostly they are the agriculturally dominated regions. So they state that about the greenery in particular. So that completely is based on the crops you are harvesting. So now, once you harvest the crops, the vegetation that is present in that particular non-urban areas is going to be reduced. So this is the logic that they have stated, especially during the heat waves in particular. So that is the logic why they have stated that now the vegetation in this particular areas of the rural or non-urban areas is not going to be staying there for longer time, but when it comes to the urban areas, that would be there because of the tree cover. Like, you know, we have some huge parks. Yes, we have some huge parks, such kind of initiatives. So huge parks, that is one way, and the lawns that we have, like, you know, water bodies. So all these things are actually those things which are actually making this particular, you know, urban areas much cooler than that of the non-urban areas during the heat waves in particular. I hope that's fine. Now, Sanjeev, the issue might be with respect to your internet connectivity. So I think everyone is finding this video clear. So that might be with issue with respect to internet connectivity, Sanjay. Now, okay, yeah. So now we'll discuss about this topic about the bump head parrotfish. So I'll show you the first little picture. So you can see this is what they are saying, that it's a bump head parrotfish. So you can see this is the bump head. You can see the head of this. So there will be some kind of a bump. So I don't know if anyone is actually having the aquariums and all. So there's actually a fish. There's actually a fish. They call it as, I forgot the name actually. In the aquarium actually they use some fishes. What is it names? Like, you know, that would be having the similar kind of bump actually. That would have a similar kind of bump on this head. So that's what we generally have. So this bump head parrotfish is found in different kind of areas. Yeah, yes, that's right. So now this bump head parrotfish, yeah. So now then when you look into this, yes, these are actually the fiery fish actually, like, you know, they are actually very angry and such kind of fishes. So now the basic question is this. So these fishes are the one which mostly dependent on. So now these are the fishes actually, they are mostly dependent on like, you know, coral reefs. Now the question is this. If these fishes are completely dependent on the coral reefs, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Now, is this coral fish is good or bad for this particular you know, corals? The fish is good or bad for the corals, or you can say for the marine resources or for the marine areas. Is it good or bad? Now, so according to the people, they say that it's a good thing. Why is it so? There is a reason why they say it's a good thing. The reason is this. So generally, in the world, they have found it different kind of areas. In India, that's going to be in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So this is considered as world's largest parrotfish. So mostly they depend on the coral reefs, especially for their livelihood, as I was talking about it. Yeah. So why is it a good thing according to the people is this? So in spite of that, it may cause some kind of a destruction to the corals. But actually what happens is that, like, anything, if it wants to regrow, so now this fish, if the fish eats the coral reefs, actually the coral growth will be there. Okay, so now it is actually going to do that. So it's actually going to, like, what happened when it eats the coral, it actually regrows, the coral actually regrows. So through this, what happens, the complete ecosystem that is present, that would remain healthy. But the problem is this: the population of this particular bumphead fish is reducing. The main reasons are that overfishing and the destruction of corals. Now, for example, we are actually dependent on certain kind of food. Now, if we don't have that food in no longer, can we sustain? Definitely no. So now the overfishing and the destruction of the corals are the major reasons for this. According to a survey, now the live coral cover and the presence of the marine protected areas, like, this particular areas, and now this particular, coral presence has to be there. So marine protected areas have to be there, and fishing has to be banned. Now, so what is going to happen now? So in this kind of areas, you generally find this bump heads a lot. So they are not legally protected. They are not legally protected in India, but they are categorized as vulnerable under the IUCN Red List also. Now India needs some kind of legal protection, and some kind of restrictions also have to be taken up, because there are no legal protection to this bump fish yet in India. So I think you everyone might have heard about the scheme that was announced by the Congress party. That is what we say, Nyai. Yes, I think everyone have been very well aware about this particular thing called Nyai. So today, so maybe that topic is a political topic, but what is its implication if the party comes to the power? What is its implication to the financial economy? What is its implication to the economy? So what we are going to do now is that we'll try to understand this particular scheme. What exactly are they proposing? What are the pros and what are the cons? What is its impact on the economy? So we'll have a detailed discussion with respect to this particular topic today, and please do keep away your political biases aside, and let's focus on the topic, because this is the one ultimately when you become a bureaucrat. When you become a bureaucrat, the ultimate thing that you have to do is the good for the people. Forget about the political parties. The ultimate thing that we are supposed to do is the good for the people. So we'll try to understand about this particular Nyai scheme today, and now what would be its impact on the economy if this particular scheme is implemented. So we'll try to understand this particular thing. So that was announced, as we all know, that they have announced that a minimum basic income. Yes, minimum basic income. So what they say is that 70,000 rupees, 72,000 rupees will be given annually to the 20% of the most poor of the country's families. Most poor families in the country. That is what they have stated. Now it is expected that about 5 crore families, which means that about 25 crore people will be benefited directly. Now they also state that this would actually be a war on poverty. Yes, definitely that can be a war on poverty, that might be considered. But now it is something which we also have to talk about, something called welfare politics. What are these welfare politics? So welfare scheme, bringing up the welfare schemes is nothing but a welfare politics. What is the initiation of the welfare politics in India? The initiation for the welfare politics has been started somewhere around in the year 1982 by the government that was headed by MGR. So MGR was the chief minister of the Tamil Nadu state, and in the year 1982 they have actually introduced a system or a scheme where they want to provide the meals to the children under a program called Chief Minister's Nutritional Meal Program. That is the initiation for this particular program. Okay, now this major objective is this: they want to provide a meal to the children who are going to the schools. So that is the initiative of this particular thing. Later on, now we know it has been transformed as the midday meal scheme. That is actually the one started from the year 1982 by the Tamil Nadu government. So this is how the welfare politics have been started. Now, so someone was pointing out, yes, Bhaskar was pointing out that, stating that it's a universal basic income. Now, what is this universal basic income? Universal basic income. The name itself makes it very clear. Yes, we'll come to that, Pavinder. By the end of this, you may ask the questions. Now, so universal basic income, what exactly it states? So universal basic income, which means that every person must get some basic income. That is what a universal basic income stands for. Without any kind of questions, without any kind of restrictions, every person is supposed to get. Now, so what is this minimum income now? So this scheme is called as, now we'll have a discussion in the end. So now this scheme will be considered as a minimum income guarantee scheme for the people, especially to the 20% of those poor people. Now, as we all know, this would be also an unconditional scheme, which means that the people will not be forced about how they are supposed to spend this amount. It's up to them about how they want to spend it. So it can be considered as a quasi universal basic income scheme, because now when I say UBI scheme, it has to be covering everyone, but it doesn't cover everyone, but it only covers only certain sections of the people, which includes, which I stated, that about 5 crore families or 25 crore people. So it can be considered as a quasi UBI scheme. Now, as part of this particular thing, as we all know, that we will be providing 6,000 rupees for the poor people for about this particular proposal will give them 6,000 rupees for poor family for 12 months. That would give us in 72,000 rupees. 72,000, 12 into 6,000, that would be giving us that. Okay. So now there is a condition now. The condition is this: for those who are having a monthly income of 12,000 rupees, they'll be getting monthly income of 12,000 or less, but not more than that. Now universal basic income cannot be considered as a welfare politics. Now the difference between the universal basic income and welfare politics is that. So that's why I didn't say that universal basic income as a welfare politics, but I stated this, that universal basic income is different and the welfare politics are different. Now I'm stating that this is a part of welfare politics. The program that is proposed one is actually done. Now let's look into the pros of this particular proposal. So now through this, it's definitely right that we can actually tackle the poverty. That's really a good thing. That is no doubt. It's undoubtedly a good thing that we can directly tackle the poverty. And now someone is pointing out really very good. That's about the economic justice. That's right, Abhirami. So now we say that there are people who are left behind in the economy. Now these people can be brought up, and this particular income that we are giving every month, 6,000 rupees that we are giving, this will actually be a kind of a safety net for this particular people, so that if there is any kind of income fluctuation, if there is any health issues, if they don't have job and everything like this, so actually this would become a kind of a safety net for those particular people. Yes. Now, yes, that's right. So now it would actually reduce the burden on the government, because when a scheme like this is implemented, and now when a scheme like this implemented, and now if the government keeps on providing the subsidies, is that feasible for the government? Definitely not. So now all the schemes that would be removed, so now that all the schemes that have actually not helped in reducing the poverty, now that would be removed, and the amount that they are going to get here will be used here in this particular scheme. Now government can eliminate the subsidies that they are giving on food, fertilizers and fuel. Beneficiaries will also know how to spend with respect to minimum guaranteed income, and a financial inclusion will be given, because they are going to get this amount directly into their bank account. So financial inclusion will be there. So these are the positive things that they have been saying. Okay, so I hope everyone is clear with respect to this thing. Yeah, so we'll have a discussion in the end, if you don't mind. Yes, so now we'll move to the against of this particular people, who are saying that this is going to be some kind of thing. And the primary people who are actually opposing this are this reason is this, that is because of the cost that is involved in this particular area. Why is it so? Why is it so here? Because they say that this can be feasible only in such kind of a cases when the other subsidies can be eliminated. Yes, that's possible. Yes, so you can eliminate the subsidies and you can implement this. But the problem is here, how do you identify the beneficiary? That remains a major question with respect to this particular thing. Getting the point? So this question, this remains a major question about how are you going to identify the beneficiaries. If there is any leakage, how are you going to deal with that? If there is any misallocation, how are you going to do it? So this remains one of the major issue in this particular area. Now, why do I say so? The reason is this. There is a reason why do I say so, because the reason is this. There is a committee called Tendulkar Committee, which was present earlier in the year 2011. So the Tendulkar committee has stated that there are about 269 million people, which is nothing but about 21.9% of the people. 21.9% of the people as below poverty line. Now, later on, we have other committee called Rangarajan committee. It has identified that there are 363 million people. Now, which one shall we take into consideration? The Tendulkar committee or Rangarajan committee? Now, for those people who are actually doing some less payment jobs, now actually what is going to happen now? So these people may actually show some kind of reluctance to do that particular thing. And economists are those like who are citing that if this is successful, if the scheme is successful, definitely that would lead to complete an end of a poverty. But if not, that's going to be a greater question. Now, when these people are not going to the low payment jobs, which are actually very important, for example, if you are saying that construction labor and all, and if they are not choosing the labor job anymore, so that is going to be an issue with respect to the construction sector completely. So that would become a moral hazard. That's what the economists have also been citing. Now, when it comes to the fiscal cost, yes, so when it comes to the costs that are involved here, this is one of the major things that we have to talk about. So we really want to increase the wage of the people, like we have to actually bring them be above the poverty line. So now, as part of this, what they have stated is this: will uniform, there will be transfer of funds in a uniform way. So this would actually require annually, in order to increase the people, who are under the poverty line. If you really want to increase this particular people and bring them above the poverty line, this would be actually involving about 17,505 for each household annually. For each household, if you really want to bring them above this particular thing, that would require 17,505. Okay, now in order to do this, so it's not 72,000, just 17,505. Okay, so if we are focusing on this particular amount itself, now let's consider this amount, the 17,505, and we'll take the first number by the Tendulkar committee that states 21.9%. So the least amount we'll take. Now that would actually cost 0.76% of a GDP. 0.76% of a GDP. So is that a less amount? Definitely not. Right? So definitely that's a question mark again. Now just imagine you are saying that for 21.9%, if you really want to implement the UBI, and if you want to implement that for 100% of population, that would be 3.49% of a GDP. The country's 3.49% of a GDP is going in the name of universal basic income. Country's 0.76% is going in the name of this kind of a scheme. So that's going to be a question mark now. Right? So now we always know that former chief economic advisor Arvind Subramaniam has actually pointed out about this particular quasi UBI scheme there, where he has recommended that about 75% of people must get it, and the cost would be the 4.9% of a GDP. Now the full coverage cost, which is about about 3.6 lakh crores, is going to completely impact the fiscal situation in the country and may also slow down the economy. Yes, we'll come to that. We'll come to that talented kid. In the end, I'll be talking about that. Now, what about the other countries? Are there any countries which are experimenting it? So there are some countries, for example, Finland. So actually they are focusing on 2,000 individuals who are actually unemployed. They are actually working on them. Scotland also started this kind of thing for the past 2 years. And there are other countries like Netherlands, Spain, Kenya. They also started. But what exactly does it mean? So what actually, why did this particular countries also start something like this? The reason is very clear. That is related to the unemployment. Yes, that is related to the unemployment. Now when there is such a huge population, now the thing is, we are actually such a huge population, but the generation of the jobs, I'll talk about it. I think we have already talked about that, Harsh. The thing is, so now when we don't have proper thing, with respect to this, when we don't have proper opportunities for the people that we have, so when we don't have proper jobs for them, so definitely that's going to be a question mark for everyone. So that will be question mark to the existence of the youth in particular and the dependents. So India is also facing similar kind of issues because India has such a huge population, but we have very limited resources, and the private investment is also not going so high. So now this particular schemes can be financed if you really want to implement this kind of schemes. You can do either by some fresh taxes or you can actually raise some kind of resources. But now But now, according to some organization, they state that rather than just spending the amount on the universal basic income, state can actually focus on supplying such kind of goods which are actually very efficient for the people, which may actually lead to improving the quality of higher education or primary education, health and law and order. So there are some organization which states that. Now the other problem is this. So for how long can we take that particular loan from World Bank? Now, so identifying the beneficiaries is one of the most important thing, and that would be actually a greater threat to the particular government if they want to implement this kind of a thing. Okay, so that is about the complete understanding with respect to the Nyay. So now if anyone has any doubts, you can actually bring me now. So I have seen some kind of statements few days ago where the political party which has actually offered this particular scheme, they made very clear that so they will be using this particular amount. So they will be raising this money from the corporates. They will be stating that the corporates will be demanded to actually do this thing. But I don't think, yeah. Now Parvinder, the thing is there has been actually when the other countries are growing like anything with respect to if you can see China. For example, China has defense purpose. If you look into this, they're actually focusing on a lot and developing a lot. But now when you really consider that India has to be one such country which actually shall at least in a path shall able to tackle China, then we cannot actually focus on reducing the defense, but rather than these days we are focusing on increasing our defense. Okay. Now, so no, the session is not yet over. We have actually many topics, but yeah. So if you want me to go with the MCQs, I can go with it. Yeah. Actually, I'm thinking to take up 2 to 3 topics more and then we'll go on with the MCQs. What do you say? So you want to know my opinion on this talented kid? I don't know what is your name, but yeah, I would say talented kid only. Yeah. Yes, we'll take up because today I don't have any other classes too after this. Yeah. So now we'll move on to the next one about the new rules, especially for the drugs and clinical trials 2019. So now, when we talk about this particular thing, so recently the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has notified the new rules, especially for the drugs and clinical trials for the year 2019. So what are they going to do it? As part of this, they will promote the clinical research in the country. So now, what is this exactly? Yeah, that is what I'm thinking. So I'll be covering. I'll be covering this particular thing with respect to the topics, and then the MCQ is related to the topics, right? So if I don't cover much topics, definitely the questions will also be not so high. So that is a major issue again. So recently the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has actually announced that they'll be coming up with some new rules with respect to the drugs and clinical trials. Now, so what exactly do they want to do? So clinical research is one of the most important thing when you really want to introduce some new drugs into the country. Now, as part of this particular new rules, they say that it completely talks about the approval of the new drugs as well as about this clinical trials in the country. So these rules that the government has brought up will be applied to all the new drugs, all the drugs that are under the investigation for the human use and clinical trials. At the same time, bioequivalence study. So what happens is that what would be the impact if we can actually use this kind of a drugs? What would be its impact on the environment? Its impact on biology of a person. So all that kind of things must be applicable. So what they have done is they have actually reduced the time. For example, earlier the application used to take about much time, but they have actually reduced the time for the applications to be like just 30 days for the drugs that are manufactured within the country. So if the drugs are manufactured within the country, so within 30 days the applications will be completely look into. Now, so if they are actually developed outside the country, so that would be for 90 days, within 90 days that would be done. Okay, so for the 90 days, if they are developing, so within 90 days they'll be looking into the applications. Now, in case, like, okay, Abbas, can we stop this? Yeah. No, that is being opposed, Parvinder. Yeah, I'll talk about it also. Now, in case if within this particular time of 30 days and 90 days, if there is no response or no reply from the Drugs Control General of India, the application is considered to be deemed to be approved, which is one of the greatest thing I would say. This is one of the most important rule because it is going to make accountability one of the most important principle with respect to this particular applications. So that's why it is going to be one of the most important fact. Now, so it is mandatory for the firms. It is mandatory for the firms to provide the medical management as long as, like, you know, if there is any person who is believed to be, like, you know, having some kind of injury that is related to, like, you know, any kind of thing. So with respect to the clinical trial and other such of things, it is mandatory for the firms to provide the medical management as long as required or till that time. So where the injury is not related to be clinical trial that is proven. So till then that has to be done. And then government also removed a clause in the clinical trials where earlier there was a clause actually, like, you know, where they are supposed to pay 60% of compensation upfront in case of a death or permanent disability. So now government has removed this particular clause. Now, why is that? So why did they remove this particular clause? Because the government made very clear that companies will pay complete amount once it is proven that the injury has been occurred because of this particular trial. Now, any sort of drugs that are approved for the use in the countries like, you know, European Union, UK, Australia, Japan and United States of America will be automatically allowed in India. But there is some condition. What is that? If they have taken in the global sample that they are testing, if they have taken Indian patients in that global sample, and if they have been tested or approved in these countries, that will be automatically allowed in India. This is considered as one of the greatest boost with respect to the drugs and clinical trials once again. Now, in case, like, you know, in case of any kind of injury to this particular trial, any person who is involved in the trial, or death or permanent disability of this particular person, the compensation will be decided by the Drug Controller General. And these new rules are going to be especially focusing on the patient safety, and also, like, you know, whatever the thing that they are doing, that must be done with the consent of this particular patient. That is also the important thing. And the ethics committee will be there, which will be completely looking after this particular trials, and they will be the one which will decide about the compensation in particular. Yeah. So just give me a minute. I'll just see how many topics are left so that we can actually go with the MCQs. So you want me to go to the MCQs directly? Yeah, we'll go to the MCQs then. Okay. So because MCQs is going to take some more time, so I'll be covering the remaining topics in tomorrow. So tomorrow it will be the last class. So we'll be having the same session at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. So now we'll be dealing with the MCQs. So yes, so please be ready to answer the questions as soon as possible. What happened, Divya Lakshmi? Okay, the first question is right before you. Bhaskar, as of now, I didn't think about anything with respect to the PDF of this particular topics. So actually, I have made the notes, but I don't know about how about sharing this particular thing yet. Now, so here we'll be starting. What happened, Divya Lakshmi? You can tell me your concern. Yes. So the question number 1 is right before you. So please start answering the questions. So it is saying that about the proposed Indian Forest Act. So it's about Indian Forest Act 2019, which was recently in news. It's about the proposed Indian Forest Act 2019, which was recently in news. That's really good. That's really good. People who have answered C, that's really good. So it proposes to provide indemnity. That's right. It also defined the village forest. But coming to this, it is not the rank of forester, but it's a rank of ranger. Okay. So now the second statement is not right. So answer has to be option C. That is 1 and 3 is a right answer. Yes, I'm on it. Talented. Abbas. Yes, Abbas. Yes, I'm on it. Now we'll move on to the next one. The next question number 2 is right before you. So please use the question number while you're answering the question, so that it will be easy for me to identify which question you're answering to. Okay, so please use the question number 2. It would be easy for me. Yes, for the question number 2, it's right. Answer is option D. That's right. It's answer D. That's Italy. So why did you ask about that, Abbas, about the telegram? Yes. Next, the question number 3 is right before you. Please answer it fast. So we'll see. We'll see in the end. I'll look into this. I'll look into this in the end. Yes. So if you look into this, the first one is right, the second one is right. Only answer would be option A, that is 1 and 2. Moving on to the next question number 4. Next, it is talking about this particular correct statements about a recent study about the temperature of urban and non-urban areas during the heat waves. Yes. So when it comes to this, the study was conducted by IIT Gandhinagar. That's right. The study reported that urban areas are relatively cooler than non-urban areas. That's right. Even during the night, this is wrong. So answer is option A, that is 1 and 2. Okay, so answer is option A. Next, we'll move on to the next question, number 5. So about this, choose the correct statements about the smart garbage bins which were recently launched by the sale. So about the smart garbage bins that were recently launched by sale. That is the question now. Yes, Nidhi, actually we have discussed about that particular second statement of question number 4 already. about that. So if you are there in the class, that would have been very easy for you. I don't know whether you are there or not, but yes, we have actually discussed about the second statement of the question number 4. So that's right. Both of these are right. So answer is option C, both. So next, question number 6 about the World Food Program. So yeah, so regarding that particular group, I actually mentioned that. So I think everyone knows about that link, right? T.me, right? T.me, that is followed by the UPSC guidance. That is it. Now, so please answer this question number 6. That's right. All of you are right. Answer is option A, that is 1 and 2. So now we'll move on to the next question number 7 about the Development Administration Partnership. Development Administration Partnership. Yes. So government are not the only sources, but including this particular thing. Okay. So both voluntary as well as government can also be there. So government cannot be the only source. Next, question number 7. Please answer it fast. Yes. So with respect to this particular question, if you're there in the class, it would have been very easy. Answer would be option D, the Ministry of External Affairs, where they'll be helping the other countries in particular. That's right. So next, question number, okay, one second. Yeah, so I think we are almost, yeah. So last question, we can say this is the only question we'll be dealing. So all the questions we'll be covering the topics in next class. So, but for now, we'll be focusing on the last question for today. Okay, so this will be the last question. The question number is question number 13. Okay, so but this would be the last question. We can formally consider it as a question number 8. Okay, you can consider this as a question number 8. I'm telling you, this is question number 8. So I can see most of you are answering C, but I just want to know why do you think the second statement is wrong? So those who have answered it as C, I just want to know from you what is the reason for the second statement being a wrong one. Is there any specific reason why the second statement is wrong? Any specific reason for that? Those who have answered C, I'm asking you this particular question. So answer is option D, that is all the above. No, it is 30 days for those which are within India, but if they are produced in other countries, that is 90 days. So that's not a wrong statement. It's actually 30 days. It's actually 30. It's 30 days if they are produced within India, but if they are produced outside India, that is 90 days. Okay? No, I have mentioned it in the class very clearly. Second statement is absolutely correct, as Tejinda has pointed out. That's right. Okay, so now if that is fine, now I'll be ending the session. Okay, so it's really good, and I'm so sorry for taking a session on a Sunday. Yes, so but it's really good to see you all, everyone here. So I'll be back again as usually at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Okay, we'll have a session at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow also. Yes, that's right. Okay. Yes. Okay, so then you are not present. Maybe your mind was not present, I guess, Pavinda, when I was talking about that particular topic here. Okay then. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. So I'll be seeing you everyone tomorrow at 7 p.m. as usually. So yeah, tomorrow would be the last class for this particular current affairs course for the month of March 2019. So thank you so much and good night, everyone. Bye bye.